Hi, today we're going to talk about two gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. There are two gases which are important to all life processes. We would like to find out, where does oxygen in the atmosphere come from? It's from photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process using energy and light and turn carbon dioxide and water into food. Four things are essential to allow photosynthesis to take place: chlorophyll in plants, energy from light, and two raw materials, carbon dioxide and water. As you may know, photosynthesis happens in plants mostly. But why is that? Why isn't photosynthesis carried out in animals like humans? Well, because you need chlorophyll. There is a chemical called chlorophyll in most plants. Chlorophyll is a green pigment, and that is why plants look green. Two other raw materials are also needed for photosynthesis: carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil. Together with the absorption of light energy by chlorophyll, photosynthesis happens. With all these raw materials and energy source, plants make food by photosynthesis. Let's look at the word equation. So this is the word equation, summarizing the process of photosynthesis. Using chlorophyll as the platform, the two raw materials, carbon dioxide and water, and using light as energy, you will get food in the form of glucose and oxygen. Oxygen is a byproduct. Light energy is converted into chemical energy stored in the food, which is glucose. Glucose is used by plants for activities like growth and respiration. If the glucose produced exceeds the plant's need for immediate use, the excess glucose is converted into starch for temporary storage. Starch can be converted back into glucose for later use. Apart from glucose, the main production of photosynthesis is oxygen, which is a byproduct, and it is released into the air. Now, let's look at the chemical equation. The total number of each atom is the same on both sides of the equation. The left-hand side should equal to the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there are 6 carbon dioxides, CO2, and 6 water molecules, H2O. And they are needed to make things on the right-hand side. 1 glucose, C6H12O6, and 6 oxygen molecules, O2. To summarize, the 4 factors necessary for photosynthesis are chlorophyll, light energy, carbon dioxide, and water. We now know that green plants carry out photosynthesis for food for their life activities, such as growth and respiration. But is there any other significance of photosynthesis to living things other than the plants themselves? Absolutely. Have you thought about what you eat in your daily life are all from plants or those who feed on plants? Take fish as an example. Fish is an animal. It does not have any chlorophyll and cannot make its own food. So what does fish do to keep itself fed? They will need to eat smaller fish, and the smaller fish has to feed on water plants. So that all living things who cannot make their own food ultimately relies on food producing plants. Plants make their own food by photosynthesis, and therefore they are called producers. Animals feed on plants or other animals, and therefore they are known as consumers. The food chain below shows the feeding relationship among living things. Grass which is a producer, converts light energy from the sun into chemical energy, and it is stored inside the grass. This chemical energy will be eaten by grasshoppers, and the energy is transferred into the grasshopper. And when birds eat the grasshopper, energy is transferred from the grasshopper into the bird. Here is another example of the food chain. As shown, the flow of energy starts from the ultimate energy source, sunlight, and then to the producer, and then to consumers. In every stage of the flow of energy, some energy is lost, as heat, for example. We previously talked about photosynthesis, a process taking up carbon dioxide from the air and releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. You may wonder if the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen would continuously decrease and increase respectively. Of course not, as all living things carry out respiration. Respiration takes up oxygen and releases carbon dioxide, as opposed to photosynthesis. We'll talk about this right now. So respiration is the process of converting the chemical energy stored in food into useful form of energy for bodily activities. Food is essential energy source for all living things. Just as animals do, plants also carry out respiration to generate energy for activities such as growth, repair, and reproduction. In the process of respiration, our body cells break down glucose, the food source, using oxygen and releasing energy in useful forms. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide and water are produced. The energy summarized this process is shown here. When you look into the equation, you may notice that it is almost opposite to that of photosynthesis. The raw materials in respiration are the products of photosynthesis. The raw materials of photosynthesis are the products of respiration. And therefore, there's also gas exchange in plants. As discussed earlier, exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen between living things and the environment are involved in both photosynthesis and respiration. In photosynthetic plants, photosynthesis is carried out in the daytime only, while respiration takes place non-stop all day, both in daytime and nighttime. The net gas exchange depends on the relative rates of photosynthesis and respiration. During the daytime, the rate of photosynthesis is higher than that of respiration, and therefore there is a net uptake of carbon dioxide and a net release of oxygen. At night, respiration continues to take place while photosynthesis stops. In this case, there is a net uptake of oxygen and a net release of carbon dioxide. Now let's look into the structure of plants and how it is adapted to the function of gas exchange. This is a leaf. There are tiny pores on the epidermis of the leaf, and these tiny pores are called stomata or stoma. Stoma is singular, while stomata is plural. Surrounding the stomata, there are two guard cells for each stoma. It is the guard cells that controls the opening and closing of the stomata. When the guard cells are full of water in the daytime, stomata opens. Carbon dioxide would diffuse and is taken up from the environment into the leaf, while oxygen is released from the leaf into the atmosphere through the stomata. At nighttime, stomata are closed due to shrinkage of the guard cell as they lose water. We've talked about the net gas exchange in plants. Now, if we take into account the activities of other non-photosynthetic living things, the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen recycled in nature, could be maintained with massive amounts of plants. However, many human activities are disrupting the balance. Burning fossil fuels and cutting down trees are two examples caused by increase of carbon dioxide in the air. You may have heard of being environmental friendly, eco-friendly, going green, etc. etc. So what does these have to do with carbon dioxide? Over the past decades, a variety of human activities have caused a rapid increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is one of the greenhouse gases. That means it is one of the gases that can trap heat from the sun and keep the earth warm. This phenomenon is called the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is alright, but too much greenhouse effect causes a lot of problems. For example, it will cause global warming, which might lead to a series of harmful effects. Melting of ice caps in the polar region and global climate change are two of the many examples. So what does this topic have to do with the Chinese Mitten Crabs project? The Chinese Mitten Crab project is related to photosynthesis and respiration. Is because aquaponics is involved with plants growing and absorbing all the waste products from the crabs to grow. And therefore, photosynthesis and gas exchange are important concepts with aquaponics. Thank you, and bye-bye.